What's good, YouTube? Coming to you guys with another MVP breakdown. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin been out. He's been tearing it up with a lot of 20 and 10 games. Right now, he averaged 18 and 10, 1.8 steals, 2.2 turnovers, but he getting 10 assists, 4.8 rebounds, 48% from the field, and 38% from the three-point line. So we're going to talk about his passing right now. Chris Paul is the best passer in the game. We been knew that. Him and Rondo was tied, but Rondo milked the clock. Chris Paul is like a motion offense guy. As you've seen a lot of these plays, he's just running around, probing in the paint, creating separation with the pick and roll with screens, and finding Blake Griffin and his teammates on some wide open shots. And he's just so patient. He just dribbles so much and finds the open spots. And he's like the Peyton Manning of the NBA because he just execute, find a hole, and just pick apart your defense. And these plays, the Phoenix Suns play good defense, but you got to respect Chris Paul's jump shot. And since you got to respect the jump shot, you got to stay close to him. You stay close to him, he can beat you off the dribble. He can dribble around you. And that can cause somebody else to get a little open because he's collapsing the defense a little bit with his probing. So he can just kick it out to Blake Griffin. Another thing about the Clippers is they got a whole lot of floor spacing. Matt Barnes, JJ Redick, Blake Griffin all can shoot. And then you got to watch out for DeAndre Jordan because he can alley-oop. So you don't want to overplay him. So that's a huge thing about the Clippers. The reason why Chris Paul is averaging 10 assists, he is playing with better teammates. But the biggest thing is the floor spacing that they have on the team. Because he can just pick apart the defense, pass it for the Blake Griffin, open mid-range. Pass it to JJ Redick, knock down three-point shooter and mid-range shooter. Who pass it to Matt Barnes in the corner. Another thing like you see in these pick and rolls is that if you guard Blake Griffin, you can't give up the paint because he's a finisher. You got to give up the mid-range jumper. Another thing, if you don't want to give up the mid-range jumper, you have to give up a three-point shot. A lot of these passes you see, Blake Griffin has the option to pass to Matt Barnes or JJ Redick off the screen because they got to respect the jumper and they got to respect them going to the paint. So you got Chris Paul can score in the pick and roll off the jump shot or get into the paint or lobbing it to DeAndre Jordan, or you got to give up the three-point shot from Blake Griffin or the mid-range shot by Blake Griffin. So it's really pick your poison when you're going against the Clippers because they can get any shot they want at any time. Because they have so much floor spacing and so many weapons. And then you can add Jamal Crawford, another person that can break down the defense and still score in isolation and still get people involved. You got a lot of weapons on this team, and it's impossible to guard this team. That's why they're one of the best offensive teams in the league. And it's all because of Chris Paul on the pick and roll, or Chris Paul coming off the screens, or Jamal Crawford being a good knockdown shooter too and a good ball handler. So you got to watch out for the Clippers. Another thing we got to talk about is the scoring. He a knockdown spot-up shooter, and he can actually shoot off the dribble. As you see, sometimes he dribbles around or he comes straight off a screen and knock down a mid-range shot. His three-point percentage is ridiculous. 38% from the three-point shot is very, very good. Sometimes he shoot it off the dribble. Sometimes he just shoot it off a kick out from Blake Griffin or DeAndre Jordan off a rebound. But he's a knockdown three-point shooter, and he can knock it down with a hand in his face, as you seen last year against OKC. When he get hot from the three-point line, he get hot. But the best thing about him is his mid-range scoring. Coming off screens, probing in the paint, dribble pull-up, off balance, on balance. Chris Paul is a knockdown mid-range shooter. He mastered that game back in New Orleans. And with all this floor spacing, he always going to get those mid-range shots. And if he knock it down at a high percentage, you're going to be in for a long game. And Chris Paul just one of the best players in the league. Top 7, top 5, top 3, whatever you want to call him. He just executes the offense, and he just picks his spots when to score. Anytime you shoot 48% from the field, you got good shot selection, and you taking the best shots available. If he comes off that screen, majority of the time they're going to give him some space. If they give him some space, he'll just knock it down. But sometimes he dribbles and creates his own space and knocks it down. Or he just fades away and knock down the mid-range shot anyway. So Chris Paul just really developed into one of the best all-around players, offensively, defensively, and one of the best playmakers and decision-makers in the league. 10 assists to 2.2 turnovers, and his assists been going up every fucking game. Wow. Now to wrap up the video, Chris Paul is an MVP candidate because he carried the Clippers without Blake Griffin. But if you watch my MVP candidate for January, I said Chris Paul was a sleeper MVP candidate. And now since he's been putting up basically 20 and 14 every game since Blake Griffin been out, he stepped his game up. His team is winning. They went from the 7th to the 5th right now without Blake Griffin. I ain't saying that they still need Blake Griffin if they want to win in the playoffs, but Chris Paul is showing that he one of the elite players. To me, Chris Paul is still the best point guard in the league. I know everybody writing Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook. I love them guys. I love Steph Curry. He's my favorite point guard pretty much. But Chris Paul, I just got to respect what he does night in and night out, and his consistency and his efficiency. And on top of that, his playmaking is efficient too. Chris Paul is a ridiculous player. He like the perfect point guard. It's just that he don't have the size to be like, he ain't 6'4", 6'3", but it's okay because he makes up for it with his brain. And Chris Paul is just a maestro. He just, like I said, the Peyton Manning of the NBA really, because he just, his execution, his ability to pick you apart on a defensive and offensive end. He averaging 2 steals a game. If you make a mistake, he just ball hawks. You go for the bad pass, he just steals it. And you already know Chris Paul is one of the best point guards in a fast break because his ability to find players, his ability to knock down a three, his ability to knock down the mid-range, and the ability to finish in the paint. And he's a small guard, but he's still a very good finisher. But I'm going to have to say Chris Paul, to me, is the best point guard in the league. And he's averaging 10 assists and almost 19 points. His points been going up too. So if he can average 19 and 10, that's something that Steph Curry not even close to doing. Steph Curry at 7 to 8 assists. Chris Paul at 10 assists. And Steph Curry actually got the better players. It's just that Steph Curry is more of a scorer than a passer. But Chris Paul scores and pass and still dominates games. So it's just who you pick as your point guard. I don't blame you for picking Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, but I'm going to go with Chris Paul as the best point guard in the league and the MVP candidate for this year. And he has a shot. People are sleeping on him this year for the MVP. I think he can win it, though. But it's going to be tough against James Harden, though. I think James Harden got it hands down right now. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe, and share. And feel free to check out my older videos. And don't forget to leave video suggestions. If you want to see a video, even a breakdown, let me know. I will make it. I'll make these videos for you guys. Don't forget that.